Who did?
Valerie Cruz.
Well, let us start with the Pledge of Allegiance as we normally do. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dokie. Roll call. We don't have a secretary today.
For the clerk, I will be clerking today's activities.
Right.
And we have Anthony Harris.
Present.
Valerie Cruz. Daryl Murphy.
Present.
Taylor Supton.
Present.
Alexandra Esposito.
Present.
Daniel Williams. And we have ex officio members Blake Harris. Do I call you guys?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right.
You know, I'm not big on
Ex
titles.
officio mayor members from fire department.
Jim
Green. And Jared Oliver. Excellent.
Okay, now as we go back over, I would like to request that we have a motion to approve the minutes from the September 8th meeting. Do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I make a motion that we will approve the minutes of the September 8th meeting.
Very well.
I'm sorry.
Approved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Minutes passed. Okay. Today, we'd like to also, we didn't approve the minutes for the June 9th meeting, so would someone like to make a motion to approve those?
I'll motion.
Been moved,
Second.
seconded, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Okay, now we'll move right along, and I don't mean to seem to be rushing or anything, but we have Mr. Marcus Harris here today. He is the new Sandusky Diversity and Economic Opportunity Manager, and he will provide us a little update on that and the DEI roadmap for the city of Sandusky. Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commission members. Getting that correct. It's my first time, so please forgive me. So I just wanted to give a little introduction about who I am myself, and then a little brief rundown of the DEI roadmap. And I'll try to go through this and not waste too much of the time. But you should have the presentation up in front of you. And make sure that I have it on.
I don't have the presentation.
It should be on the screen in front of you.
Oh, okay, okay.
So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Marcus Harris, Diversity and Economic Opportunity Manager for the City of Sandusky, and I want to take a little bit of time to not only introduce myself, but speak a little bit about my role and provide a high-level overview of what diversity and equity and inclusion means for the city as an employer. First things first, I'd like to say that I'm a proud Sandusky native. I was born and raised here in Sandusky by my grandmother, Ada Harris, in the city's East End on Farwell Street. After graduation, I left the city to study mechanical engineering at the University of Michigan. And after leaving Ann Arbor, I lived in Detroit and Atlanta, and then returned to the city to fulfill a promise to my grandmother to attain my bachelor's degree, and I enrolled in BGSU. Graduating in 2009. I worked for Starbucks Coffee Company for 10 years, managing stores across the Northeast Ohio region, helping launch the Black Partner Network Employee Affinity Group. I left Starbucks in 2017 to work for the Youth Opportunities Unlimited. It's a youth workforce development nonprofit focusing on youth and young adult employment for ages 14 to 24. I was there for 4 years, recruiting volunteers to participate in in-school and out-of-school programming, managing the credential training program, and lastly, managing the Young Adult Resource Center in conjunction with Towards Employment for How Means Jobs, Cleveland, Cuyahoga County. And after observing the awesome growth and development in the city over the course of the last 7 years, I jumped at the opportunity to return home and work and join Eric's team. I currently reside in Westlake, Ohio with my wife and our son, looking to move back to Sandusky in the summer of 2022, and I believe in order to inspire others to work and live in Sandusky, I should be willing to do the same. My role can be viewed through two lenses, internal and external. Much of the DEI work that I'm tasked with will have an internal impact as we establish a DEI action team, gather data to get a baseline of where we are as an employer, establish DEI goals, and track the implementation and progress of those goals. I also work with HR and department heads on programs and initiatives aimed at recruiting applicants to city jobs that reflect the diversity of the city we serve. And I'll also be working,
Slow down.
Okay. I will be working with regional partners to develop pathways to employment for Sandusky residents and jobs with sustainable wages. Hiring a diverse workforce is one thing, but I will also help aid HR in developing programs, processes, and procedures for new and existing city employees on DEI aspects. We want to give city employees the right tools so they are positioned for success and can grow in their careers, and serve as a point person on workforce development and assist local organizations that provide economic opportunities to our city residents, while also serve as a city liaison in efforts related to supporting minority and female-owned businesses. And a whole lot more bullet points in that as well, but I won't bore you with that. It's important to note when we talk about implementing diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, it's a journey that is both organizational and deeply personal. Organizationally, it's about designing organizational processes to ensure equity, which is different from equality, and improving inclusion by improving individual behaviors and setting the tone by updating mission, vision, values, norms, and workplace culture. Weaving DEI work into the DNA of the organization, so establishing employee clubs, incentives for participating, and how DEI work is promoted within the organization. And lastly, helping launch all employees on a DEI growth journey through training, coaching, and feedback. The personal DEI journey is unique to the individual. So we should encourage all employees to embark on the journey for the good of our organizations, regardless of their title or role. It starts with understanding our social identities, how they may serve to benefit us and or hold us back. And once we have a good understanding of who we are, we have to acknowledge the biases we all have, explicit and implicit. Next, it's about having the courage to call out those biases and develop awareness to know when something is happening. Understand there is no magic pill or one-stop training session for us to take to eliminate bias. This is a journey that's about continuous improvement. And lastly, the end goal of the personal DEI journey is to become an ally. I want to share for you guys real quickly the learning case for the diversity, sometimes referred to as a diversity bonus. This concept is rooted in hard science, but not warm and fuzzy feelings, right? So let's state the obvious, that diversity is good, right? I blew your minds with that statement, but it's also hard, right? And marinate on that for a second, right? Diversity is a beautiful thing. In my opinion, it's what makes the United States special amongst nations. But we have to understand that it's hard. So having a collection of diverse people working together requires empathy, patience, and the ability to listen, not to respond, but to listen for understanding. Now, studies have been conducted showing that diverse teams give better results. The dark blue bar that you see represents groups of people who are socially similar. The light blue bar represents groups that are socially dissimilar. A group's perceived effectiveness, or how well they think they did on a project, is higher in the more socially similar group and lower in the socially dissimilar group. Well, why is that, right? So when you bring together a group of people who are socially dissimilar, there's a wide breadth of ideas, perspectives, and opinions that require more effort to get to a solution. So they perceive their solutions as less effective because it was harder to get to, while the socially similar group came to solutions quickly and didn't question the results. Easy feels right, hard feels wrong. In reality, the socially dissimilar group outperformed the socially similar group by a large margin. Diverse teams bring unique perspectives, better prep for meetings, the conversations are more focused on the facts, discussions tend to be deeper, and there's more debate and task conflict. This leads to better information elaboration, which results in improved problem solving, decision making, creativity, and performance. Now, harvesting these bonuses for the city will be a battle of two mindsets: fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. So for fixed mindsets, intelligence and ability are fixed. You either are or you aren't. No use investing time and dollars in developing those people, they'll never get it anyway. Looking and sounding smart is the most important thing. So it's fake it till you make it type mentality. And effort is seen as negative. And I remember as a child in elementary school, we would race to finish our work first because whoever put that paper on the desk first was the smartest. And that's not necessarily true. So with the growth mindset, you see a different perception of the world. Ability and intelligence can be developed. The act of learning and growth that comes with it are more important than confident ignorance. And lastly, effort and hard work are good things. It shows commitment to getting better results because practice makes perfect. So in order for the city as an employer and everyone that makes it up to accelerate our personal and organizational DEI journeys, having a growth mindset is critical. It helps us improve our self-awareness. It helps us to be more resilient versus reactive, and it helps us accelerate our personal learning journey and development by pushing us to experiment and get feedback. And the growth mindset also gives us the courage to confront prejudice in others. Now, to understand how to navigate the diverse workforce and teams, I need to talk just a little bit about social identity, right? I really love this graphic. As you guys can see, the colors and lines for me kind of represent the number of influence that make up our social identities, and the two faces represent our public-private identities, so who we are at work versus who we are in our lives outside of work. DEI work strives to bring those two faces together so that city employees can truly be their authentic selves. Now, a little bit about identity is that the who am I, right? That eternal question. It's our sense of self. It's not fixed. It evolves over time as we go physically, emotionally, and socially. It includes characteristics we have no control over, like height, race, or age, and characteristics we choose to take on, such as religious or political affiliations. And now, social identities are comprised of the groups we belong to, right? And here in this graphic, you see some affiliations. You have your core social identities, things that are core to us, and then you have secondary identities. These are things that we take on or that we grow as we develop as human beings, right? So we tend to put more emphasis on the difference between separate groups and the similarities between things in the same groups. And this graphic is known as the wheel of social identities, right? And this is where kind of the source of our biases kind of come from when you create these in-group, out-group dynamics. Well, another term thrown at you, intersectionality, right? So this is a term that was coined back in the 80s. And just to kind of break it down to a few words, right? It's how your different identities layer upon and play off each other, right? So two of my core identities are African American and male, and one of my secondary identities is that of a college graduate. How those identities intersect plus or minus depends on the social setting I'm in. If I'm in a social setting with other African Americans who maybe aren't college graduates, that combination can work both positively and negatively. Most often it's positive due to our shared racial identity, but the negative result of that type of intersectionality has been borne out to, in some circumstances, to say that I may act white or I'm not acting black enough, right? And that's a weird type of concept, but that's how intersectionality works, right? Where you have a whole bunch of layered different identities on you, and so it interacts differently depending on what social setting we're in, right? And the same thing kind of matters. I could have someone who is an African-American woman, college graduate, but our experience in this world is going to be very different because of gender, right? And living in a patriarchal society, things can play out a little bit different. I may have some bonuses from being a guy, right? It just plays out that way. Now, before we leave this subject, I want to share about you the pitfalls of in-group, out-group dynamics. So our biases form the foundation of stereotypes. If left unaddressed, those stereotypes can lead to discrimination. And when discrimination becomes the rule, whether de facto or de jure, over time they lead to structural inequalities like we saw after Plessy versus Ferguson in 1896.
Right.
That decision gave us separate but equal, right? Those structural inequalities turned outright oppression like you witnessed during the Jim Crow era. So that's why DEI work is so important. Further organizations are in this continuum, the harder it is for us to unravel. A little bit about unconscious bias. So the human brain is a powerful processing apparatus. In computational terms, the human brain can process as much as 400 billion bits of information per second. It's like 400 gigabytes of information every second your brain is processing. And our minds are only aware of only 2,000 bits, so 2 kilobytes per second. So all the conscious decisions that we make and how long it takes us to make them, where to eat, what to wear, do we really want to go hang out with our friends? Like, those take a long time to make those decisions. We make unconscious decisions in less than 1/10 of a second, and we do it constantly, right? So our unconscious mind and our biases have way more influence over our lives than we like to believe. So we are hardwired to create preferences. The gigantic amount of information we take in per second, in order to process it, our brains group similar data into like groups. And these groups are the underpinning of biases. So we have our psychological biases hardwired into our brains to prefer people and things like us on the surface. And we also have learned sociological preferences rooted in cultural influences and past experiences. So these create unconscious bias, which bypass our normal, rational, logical thinking. And we often label this as intuition, right? And this is most active when we are stressed, frustrated, angry, or feel threatened. And our unconscious biases can influence decisions and behaviors without us being made aware of it. Now, can we just have a quick moment of silence for our unbiased selves, okay? I got the 5 stages of grief here for you guys to help deal with this loss of your perception of your unbiased self. Because I can tell you, we all have biases. For example, I took 2 implicit association tests from Harvard University covering 2 areas. One was the preference of light-skinned individuals over dark-skinned individuals, and the second was the level of association with white and black faces in images of weapons or harmless objects. In the first one, it came that I had a conscious bias of light-skinned individuals over dark-skinned individuals. And in the second one, I had an easier association of black faces and weapons than I did with white faces and weapons. And conversely, I had a harder association of black faces and harmless objects than I had with white faces and harmless objects. And I share that with you guys to say this: we all have biases. No matter who you think you are or what you've learned or how you've experienced, we carry them, right? So it's important for us to be aware of that, right? So for a workplace ecosystem, these biases can affect us in a number of different ways. It affects performance evaluations, who gets opportunities for advancement, and who is seen as influencers in our community. So as we each walk this path towards becoming anti-bias, we have to remember that we all have bias and we all have privilege on at least one of our social identities. And be intentional about connecting with others who are different than you, not just as a checkbox, but meaningful connections. Engage and lean into different conversations, and remember always to be open and willing and to call out bias in others and yourself. And becoming an ally, that's the goal, right? And when you engage with marginalized groups, do with empathy and curiosity. Mentoring, advocacy, facilitating connections, and providing affirmations are all good ways to do that. And last but not least, as we look to implement DEI principles here in the city, we want to use established best practices. So we're looking at the merit framework as far as valuing the DEI work and what we want to do. So making goals and the work actionable, measurable, and evidence-based. Elevate DEI internally and externally, and so a senior leader should spearhead the work. Requiring leaders and managers to participate in the DEI work, and training cannot solely be about celebration or awareness or changing attitudes and beliefs. Those with leadership positions need to be taught how to engage in these types of behaviors, and organizations would like to see. Identify leaders and non-managerial employees willing to serve as DEI ambassadors and champions, right? We can create DEI sponsor roles for non-managerial employees, and they need to be rewarded by this work by showing up in performance evaluations and reviews and things of that nature. And last but not least, treating it as core work, not peripheral work. So we need to have, make sure that the titles and the reporting relationships reflect the importance of this work. And last but not least, I want to make sure the work that we're doing is transparent and reportable. Understanding that establishing the baseline, we may uncover some glaring shortcomings or uncover some pleasant surprises that can push back against some negative narratives attached to the city as an employer. Either way, producing a public report is a great way to illustrate how serious we are in doing this work. So we want to, as we work together with our DEI council and the team, we're going to decide what diversity dimensions we want to measure and track. We want to choose which metrics for diagnosis and tracking progress on return on investment, take baseline measurements and attaching goals and timelines, and then assigning the responsible parties and holding them accountable in performance reviews. And we're going to track, analyze, and publish our results. If Deloitte, AT&T, Starbucks, Target, IBM, all these big companies can do it, Cleveland Clinic, we can do it too, right? And so I want to thank the Community Relations Commissions for giving me the opportunity to speak with you all today about who I am and what the city plans to do. And then also we'll be reaching out to you guys as stakeholders in this to do some one-to-one interviews as far as getting your opinions on the perception of the city as an employer to help inform our work as we move forward, and definitely keeping you in the loop on anything that we discover in this process as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Brother Chairman,
Yes.
I would just like to say to Mr. Harris, Marcus Harris, great presentation. I think this is very important. I look forward to the information that you will be providing us on this. And if you think it's possible that we could get a hard copy, if you could send this to my emails and we could print it off ourselves, if that's okay.
Yes, I can do
Because
that.
a lot of great information here.
Yeah, I can make that
We've had
available.
this conversation along with Chief before about different diversities and different biases that people have, and I think it's important that all of us have to realize that we all have biases, and whether they're perceived or not, but it's true, and it's something that we need to use to our advantage to get better at. So thank you for this presentation, and I'm excited about where the city is going and headed.
Well, Mr.
I look forward to that. You're going to send it to our emails, or you're going to?
Yes, I'll send that to your emails.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Mr. Harris, that was an excellent presentation, and your grandmother did a good job. I
No
do wanna-
nepotism, I'm sorry, please, Brother Chairperson. No nepotism, please, thank you.
No, this isn't nepotism. This is, this
I
is,
understand, I'm just,
that's one of your biases. But that's not nepotism, that's actuality. The one thing I'd like to say is that your presentation was excellent, a little slower in the speech.
that's what I'm
moving
talking about,
forward,
referring to.
because you're blasting through this and we're trying to read as you're speaking. So
Now it's Uncle Harris, right there, instead of Chairman Harris.
no nepotism, no nepotism.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But what I'd like to say is you're saying that you plan on having transparency within your department. And my question is, how would we have access to the reports and the progress that you're making as you move through the journey as the manager of diversity and economic opportunity? How will we have access to the information and the reports that you're saying you're going to offer to us for perusal to judge?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the simplest way to put it, because every one of us in our capacity, whatever we do, our jobs or whatever, we're judged. And in order for us to judge in a non-biased, impartial way, we have to see the information. And my question is, how will we have access? Like Brother Murphy says, I understand the email situation and things like that, but is there a way that we can see this stuff? And also, is there a way that we can contact you directly if we have an issue that we feel falls into the realm of your expertise?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I look forward to making this commission an integral part of the work. So as we move along our roadmap, as we're just getting the kickoff for our diversity equity action team on Monday, and the roadmap has a end destination around the end of April as we go through and gather our data and create the SWOT analysis, that we will be looking to include you guys all in this process. And I want to make sure that the next meeting that we have in 2022, that we should be able to report back on progress. And in the interim, if you're interested about where we are in the roadmap and would like to have some conversations about that, I am open at any time, and I will make sure that you get my card at the end of this. You can email and or call, and we can schedule a time to sit down and talk together about this in a one-off.
Why, fine. Well, speaking for myself, and I'm sure other members of the commission feel the same way, if you need us, don't be afraid to reach out. You know, we're all in the situation that we can't help you, or we're got something else going on, we'll let you know. But if it's at all possible and there's anything we can do to assist you with your roadmap, you know, I'm willing to be a guide along the path, if that's what it takes, and work to help you become successful in your position.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you for that presentation. I know a lot of larger companies and bigger cities are hiring on a DE&I manager, so I'm happy to see that coming to Sandusky. I think that a lot of local businesses could benefit from even seeing the presentation that we just had. So I know you have a lot of work to do. That would be nice to see in the future as well. So thank you.
Thank you. And also, I'd like to say that shout out to Fremont. They have a Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and that we have established a professional kind of network and check-in just to make sure, as a region as a whole, that we are sharing best practices and bouncing information off each other.
Good, very good, very good. Well, thank you for the presentation, Mark. And like Brother Murphy said, it was informational, it was well prepared, and you explained to us the path that you plan on taking for the city. But again, like Mr. Murphy said, I would like to have a hard copy if possible. It's something I could, you know, use and peruse as see fit. And it's also a something like that would be something that would help us to kind of yank your chain and say, hey, you know, you're not staying the course, you know. So it's not a personal attack or anything else, but it's a situation where looking at it as a professional check, just as though we would question commission, police, fire, anybody else on what we feel is something that's detrimental to the health of our community. You know, we're going to be yanking your chain. So, you know, be prepared for that. You know,
I welcome accountability, Mr. Commissioner.
well, you
Chairman.
know, like you say, you know, it's like football. In practice, you have conflicts. You know, guards against guards, tackles against tackles. But that's the only way you get better, is to learn what each other's weaknesses are, what each other's strengths are, and put those together so that if my strength supports your weaknesses, we work together on that. If your strength supports my weaknesses, we work together on that. And don't be afraid to call us out. By the same token, don't be afraid to say, hey, you guys are sitting on your hands, I need help. You know, that's what we're here for, and a lot of times people in the community don't realize that they can reach out to us for assistance in situations. I know Mr. Murphy has done so many times, has stepped forward to help people in the community and see what we can do to try to further things. The police department, with their hiring practices right now, is making great progress in this city. And even something so simple as letting their officers know, hey, it's okay to smile in the community. Something as simple as that goes a long way in community relations.
And saying that, Brother Chairman, not to go to a different subject, but did you ever do the between the lines as far as letting the community know about the CRC?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I did.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, if you can Google it, it's there, the whole interview.
Okay.
Okay, now we have the Mbet Scholarship. Abby Bemis, would you like to have the floor, please, you and Blake?
Sure. Oh. I can. I'll go stand up there.
Sure. Okay.
Blake, would you like to introduce?
Yes. So while Ms. Bemis is handing out a few things there, let me see. We, what, was it about a month ago? Man, these dates they're flying by. Yeah, so I'm going to go with a month. I know it was a Friday night. But anyhow, we welcomed, actually, they pretty much packed the house. A little over 100 attendees at our event for Minority Business Empowerment Team Networking Night. Our intent was to not only just welcome entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs and creatives out for a night out, but more so to actually celebrate mothers and women in business, and just highlight them, because oftentimes, not to say that it goes overlooked, but perhaps we don't think about it maybe as enough as we should, or at least celebrate it. And so we wanted to highlight that by asking some young ladies to come out and speak to the attendees and just share their story in hopes of, just inspiring others who may, just need that spark or need that fire relit. So we had Darlene and Mary from Realty Executives, two young ladies that are realtors in the area and doing pretty well for themselves. And then we also had Stephanie Gerald, which she recently stepped out into the entrepreneurial, took upon her own endeavor just some time ago after working a job for 10 years and is a single mother of two. So them just sharing their stories was just really awesome. And they also got the opportunity to sort of, kind of step outside of their comfort zone by speaking to the individuals that were there that night. And I'll probably pass it to Abby to share the great news and not only about what ECADEC and the RISE has been able to help us provide, these startups, but what Mr. Hography surprised us with that night as well. So go ahead.
Thank you for letting me have the fun announcement. That was really
I'm
courteous.
trying to share.
So one of the big programming items that we rolled out first at this networking event was the Startup Scholarship that we're starting to offer through Mbet. And as designed, we had secured grant funding to support aspiring entrepreneurs to form an LLC, a limited liability company, which is a best practice when starting a new company. So we were rolling out the scholarship that night with $125 of benefit to applicants that complete these 5 steps, which I'll get into a little bit. But what was really neat, and Blake's absolutely right, when you get a room like that together, the energy was so great. And when we were rolling out this program, from behind the bar, Mr. Hography shouted, "Hey, I want in, count me in for 500 more." And Blake's like, "A piece?"
I was like, wait, 500 total or a piece?
Because we have a target of 35 new companies to form, and he said a piece. So we've since confirmed that with him, and you have a redesigned informational flyer with you, recognizing their generous support as well. And I want to thank the Mylander Foundation, who started this scholarship with Mbet and our RISE program. Again, one of those great organizations that get a great idea, be willing to support a spark, and see what happens, watch it grow. So the goal of the Startup Scholarship, I would say, really came from some of the initial programming that Mbet helped to support with COVID relief for existing minority-owned companies. We had I think many observations, but 2 major ones in terms of gaps in the community. One was we worked with a lot of people interested in receiving support, but perhaps weren't as organized as they needed to be to compete in fast-moving programs that were first come, first serve, whether that's their finances or having the LLC established. So just those good organizational practices we observed needed some support occasionally. And then secondarily, we actually heard from so many people that hadn't formed a company but wanted to, and wanted to use this grant to do that. So that's really what sparked the idea for the Startup Scholarship. We see it as that next iteration of, we want to support existing businesses, but we also want to support a pipeline of people with opportunity in the community, and this program is designed to do that. So to be eligible to receive the Startup Scholarship, our committee designed sort of 5 best practices that we'd like companies to do to get off on the right foot. That includes a business plan, that can be brief, that shouldn't intimidate people. Some financial planning, that's an area in our RISE program that we certainly see people need support with. How much money are you going to earn and how, and what sort of costs will you run into in the process? Then the third item is sort of these logistical matters, the LLC, getting a vendor's license, getting an employer identification number with the federal government. So those are those items that should a future COVID relief bill come out, if you have that in place, you're in good shape to receive support. Business checking account, that's certainly advocated by our committee. And then finally, how are you going to get the word out about your business? So these 5 steps, once completed or during that process, will complete the payment for that LLC formation. And then Mr. Hogarty will take our recommendation that these 5 steps have been completed and contribute his $500 working capital grant. So the things I want to highlight, 5 steps, it hopefully sounds doable, right? But secondarily, our committee and the RISE program are here to support people the whole way through. So since rolling this out just a couple weeks ago, without it even running independently in the paper, we met with 10 potential applicants just this week. So lots of interest already, and we love that. The program has room to grow. So we will meet with clients to explain the process. If there's any of these 5 steps that they would like one-on-one support in building, we will do that with our business advisors and our staff. Or if you meet someone who has taken a lot of these steps independently, they're eligible too. So either way, they can apply. And then just in terms of eligibility, a couple things I'd highlight. When we're talking minority-owned companies, we're talking about historically underserved population groups. So people of color, veterans, women. Honestly, our ears are open in the community if there's another group that thinks they're eligible for this that we haven't outlined. No company in existence, so the target is new companies or people that want to get reorganized. And I can send this form digitally, so you'll see in the frequently asked questions, there's a lot of detail there that can hopefully help people work through it, but would love your help in spreading the word. And
Well, you know, and Marcus, you're with it, Cleveland, they have, and I'm not prejudicial, but they have what they call entrepreneurship and business classes at St. Edward's High School. What they do is they take students who may aspire to own their business or start their own businesses, and what they do is they have workshops. Basically, they're workshops that are teaching people from scratch how to start their business plan, how to register with the Secretary of State, formulation of LLCs, some type of financial plan as what they would need for startup costs and things like that. But they offer workshops for the people that are neophytes in the process. And is that something that you guys would be willing to offer to the community, workshops to help people who might have that idea but don't know how to go about starting it or cultivating that idea? And you know, sure, we could reach out and try to say this, but you know, when we reach out to them, where can we direct them? Is there someplace they can go, you know, maybe once every quarter or something like that? Here's an entrepreneurial workshop where we can explain the basics like that.
yeah, I love that suggestion. It's funny, it just came up with our internal committee on how we were going to manage this process. Do we need sessions specifically on each of these 5 steps? So with that in mind, we can definitely plan some workshops in 2022 we'll probably first focus on these 5 steps. What is a finance plan? What is a business plan? But we can talk, and I'd be curious your feedback. Is that best delivered in person? Is that a virtual program? Do you hear anything like that in the community in terms of what's more accessible?
You know, virtual is good because you can access a greater number of people. But personal, I think, is better because it teaches them the necessity for a lot of hands-on things, because as Mr. Murphy and Nat know, that a lot of times a business startup, you've got a lot of pounding the pavement to do to get your ideas across and in front of the right people. It's not simply just I hit a keystroke and email somebody, because that's not always how it works. It's a lot of businesses face to face has a lot to do with this guy at the bank saying, yeah, I'm gonna loan this guy some money. The personal touch is a lot to do with that. Which is why I say in-person workshops will be very beneficial to something like that. You may only get 10 people at your workshop, but if those 10 people come away and you've got 5 or 6 people that have a startup and come up with a sound business plan to do something, that to me is well worth it.
Perfect. Thank you. Good feedback.
Yeah. Abby, I'd just like to say you're doing a great job. Thank you for the work you're doing, and Blake as well, and it's your whole committee, because I've been hearing some information in the city and talk around town that they're excited about the young people, the opportunities for minority businesses, and just for young people to have a startup business. So I think you guys are doing a great job. That's why we've been like hands off, because I say you got a lot of young people involved, and I know Spencer Patterson and his family as well. And you guys are doing a great job. So if there's anything that we can do as far as the CRC to help out, we will, and even on the basis of the NAACP as well. But you guys are doing a great job. We appreciate what you're doing. I guess the question I might ask, if I could, is just what are some of the questions that the new business owners are saying, some of the problems that they're experiencing? So what are some of that feedback that you've been getting that's been hurting them, or been like a stumbling block or some type of obstacle that they need removed?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and actually something else that I might ask of this committee. So one of the things we also did at Mbet was design, what did we decide to call it? An interest form?
Oh, yeah.
We wanted to stay away from survey or and really our goal with the questions that are on there are, what is getting in your way in the community? What have you experienced? We haven't gotten a great response rate from that. We thought that the people coming to the events might complete it. And honestly, I think they get caught up in the event and they don't. So I would love to think about ways that we can get that out in the community, because to me, that's what informs what's next after the Startup Scholarship. And in part, what we love about this program, or we want people to understand, is this came from what we heard, right? When Mbet gets started, when CRC's working, what you're telling us as a community, we're going to try to respond to, but we have to hear from you. So limited, I guess in this specific instance, one of the things that we work with a lot that's a barrier, some of these websites that you have to navigate through to get a business started are really pretty confusing. If you haven't been on there before, there's a lot of words you don't, I've been in this field 10 years and there's still words on there that I need a lawyer to understand.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I was saying about the workshop, because those questions are going to come up, and people are a lot of times more comfortable telling you in person than they are trying to sit there and type, what am I going to say? Have I worded this the right way? And that kind of thing. But I agree with Daryl. You guys are doing a wonderful job, and we really appreciate your commitment to the community and your foresight in looking to help Sandusky progress along that, because the more successful you are, the more successful the city is going to be.
Yeah.
And that's going to bring people back to us. It's going to keep people from leaving, knowing that they have an opportunity to succeed in their hometown. It goes a long way with the young people.
Right. And I guess, just to piggyback on what Tony is saying, and I guess the reason why I asked that question, what are some of the stumbling blocks for them, because from our perspective and how I'm looking at it, we just don't want them to start a business. We want the business to be successful.
To flourish.
So that's very important, that just to start one, and thank Mr. Hogarty for his investment in it as well. And please convey that message from the CRC as well. We thank him for that, and we thank you for getting the grant money for this. But we just don't want to start these businesses. We want the people to be here for the duration, for the long run. So we want to do something that's going to make them viable for years to come. So not just to say, okay, I started a business, it was off the ground, it lasted 1 year, and then what happened? So we want to make sure we set them up for success. So I think that's very important. So, but you guys are doing a
And
great
that does, Gerald, that does remind me of one thing I would add to and this is across the board, every startup, cash, right?
Cash.
People really underestimate how much money they need to start a business, and they really overestimate how much support they can go and ask for. Sounds like our research expert could tell you this better than me, but this is one of the biggest barriers to why minority entrepreneurship stays stifled, because 99% of startups start with friends and family money. So if you have a population group that's historically been at a lower income level, you don't have the friends and family money as accessible to sort of break that cycle.
I don't know if you know about it, but Steve Jobs and his wife have a program that they offer grants to startup businesses and minority businesses that have gotten their foot forward and moving ahead. And the one thing that's holding them back, like you said, is the cash. But with a viable plan and something that's doable and successful, there are people like Steve Jobs that are out there that are willing to forward grants to these people to help them become successful, and not like Mr. Murphy said, not just a flash in the pan business, but a sustainable business that will help create jobs and it's for the betterment of the community. So there are things out there that people don't know. You can contact people, and there are people to contact that have things that aren't just immediately on the World Wide Web. You're gonna Google who can I get money from kind of thing, but there are things, and I'm not talking about a GoFundMe. I'm talking about established businesses and people with money that are willing to help somebody succeed because they at one time were in the same position that these young people are going to be in. Steve Jobs started in his mom's garage. He had to come up with money. There are avenues out there that these people don't know about, and maybe that's something your team can help them steer them towards.
I'm excited to see how this develops over time, because I know that this was in response to the COVID relief grants that I was involved with a little bit. So it's just neat, because then, maybe this will develop into workshops, maybe partnering with Bowling Green Firelands. There's just a lot of things that can come from this that are really exciting. So great work.
I would commend you guys as well, Blake, city staff. In the last 20 years, I feel like it's went from the city of Sandusky, like if you're trying to start a business, keep a business, it went from being like, I have to deal with the city. I got to do this. I got this regulation. To where now I feel like it's just the city facilitates as much as possible. And that's like what government's there to do, is to facilitate growth, not to impede. I remember them, complaining about people's signs. Well, now they're trying to help people fund their signs, So in the last 10 years, we've just come a long way. And I think it's because of groups like this and people like you that's happened.
I would totally echo the compliments, the small business programs in particular that you do grant making for. There's nothing like it in really any other county in Ohio, and it makes a huge difference in how people perceive this city and the welcoming reception.
Can we share this information, this flyer, like even on our website and the different websites?
Love that.
Are we able to do that?
Yeah, is it okay to email, or do I email you? How should I get the info to the committee?
Staff
We
support.
have all our emails.
Because we get it like
Or
on a
even if you email
PDF.
to me.
Have your emails, is it okay to email direct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. we
I
get
will
it like
send
a
you
PDF,
that,
we can-
the survey, and I'll stay in touch about workshops.
Okay.
Great.
Well, Abby, Blake, I really appreciate the work that you're doing. And thank you very much for shedding some light on it with us, so we have a better understanding of the process and what you're going through and what you're attempting to achieve with the city. I think that the more we disseminate this information to the younger people and let them know that there is opportunity here, you know, you don't have to go to New York or Cleveland or Chicago. You can be right here in Sandusky and flourish, you know, and we have, what do you say, best location in the nation right here. So,
A small city.
you know, you're small but mighty, you know, and that's what we have to do. We have to instill a sense of pride in the community within our young people so that they have a reason to want to be saying, I'm from Sandusky, Ohio. You know, I got my start in Sandusky, Ohio. You know, that goes a long way. Believe me, it does. Because I see so many people that are saying things like, oh, I'm from New York. Well, you know what? We're in New York. New York's a big place. There's Brooklyn, there's the Bronx, you know, there's Queens. Don't just say you're from New York. Where are you from? Aren't you proud to be from Washington Heights in New York? Aren't you proud to be from Red Hook in Brooklyn? You know, you can't just, you know, and I hate when I hear people say, I'm from the Cleveland area. Well, where? You know, bottom line is you were from Sandusky, you know, and don't be ashamed to say you're from Sandusky. I want this to be a beacon of light to people, not only in the state and community, but, you know, around the nation. You know, people can sit there and say, you know, this is one of the 10 best cities to live in the nation. That's proven, you know, and the work you guys are doing helps to solidify that fact.
Job well done.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Oh, speaking of that, there's one other thing. Well, I'll wait to get to old business because I think that does have something to do with old business. But again, thank you, Abby, and thank you, Blake, for the work you've done and the work you continue to do.
Thank you very much.
It was a good event.
It was, yeah, we're looking forward to the next one.
If anyone wants extras, should I leave these here?
Yeah, I'll take one more. I'll just put it on the thing. That'd be fine. Thank you.
Your neighborhood wrap-up, Marcus.
Thank you. And apologies, my colleague Erin Blair said that she wanted to be here, but she could not. And I had read in the minutes that Jonathan had shared with you guys that the neighborhood meetings were happening, and so I wanted to make sure that you got an update and follow-up about the results of that and the ice cream socials that they had. The ice cream socials were to celebrate accomplishments and listen and learn from the residents and kind of answer some of their questions. And they had these boards where they talked about things that you would like to see today, and then the next 5 years, what would you like to see as well. And so it's kind of like a future vision board and comment sheets for individuals to participate and then submit their comments. And they were held on the south side, the Cove District, West End, Garden District, south of Kilbourne, Talon Floor Park, Churchwell Park, Sandusky Rec, Lions Park. I think Lions Park one got rescheduled was indoors, and then JC Park and Central Park, where they were able to connect with, I think she said it was 120 residents plus, and with 275 ideas that were given within 225 comments, and staff attended some of these meetings as well. So I thought it was a great opportunity to get out and about into the community to get some feedback from people. And just want to share with you some of the top things. So keep investing in parks and recreation was the largest at 31% as far as the feedback. Some of the comments were rec center, community pool, somewhere safe to go. Second on that was continue repaving streets and focusing on pedestrian safety, so including traffic calming, sidewalks, and crosswalks. And third on that was to ensure housing options and beautify neighborhoods. So that includes redevelopment in neighborhoods, housing affordability, home ownership, and code enforcement. Some of those comments were increased home ownership, new homes with porches, get houses on empty lots, family housing, and do something about vacant homes. And number 4 on that was promote local business and economic advancement. Hey. So that includes programs for entrepreneurs, job training, business incubation, and fostering retail options. And so some of those comments were more food trucks, neighborhood stores, small business assistance, and setting up incubator investment. So getting help for entrepreneurs with their business at no cost. And some of the other things that were lower on the list was just number 5 was keep up the great work. Number 6 was increase a sense of safety in the neighborhoods at 5%. 7, attract redevelopment. And number 8 was to continue to incorporate environmental sustainability in the things that we do. So just the next steps, some of the information from these meetings will inform City Commission and staff on community preferences when setting budget priorities, policy direction, program evaluation, and plans and projects. And so that was, I know that Mr. Holliday had spoken to you guys about those meetings, and I read that, or when I listened to it, I wanted to make sure that you guys got a little bit follow-up about that meetings and how those went. And if you have any questions, I can try to answer what I know, but definitely will forward it to community development to see if they can have any more details for you.
Now, Marcus, we don't have your email as yet.
Oh, you don't?
No,
Oh.
I don't. I mean, I've got your email, but not your email from the job.
Let me just take a little moment here, if I may approach.
Good approach.
And you have
Thank you.
that.
Thank you. I'll add that to
Thank you.
And you have
Karen
that.
already have. If I may ask a
I'm on the
question.
staff contact list on the city website too, so the can get in touch with me through that. I think someone has, and it kind of sends me an email.
Yeah. Brother Chair, I have a question from
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Harris.
Go right ahead.
Either Mr. Harris can answer this or the other. Mr. Harris might can answer this. I know the number one question, not the number question, but the number one statement that most of the residents say is always about a rec center. A rec center. We hear that all the time, and I know, and it really did stick with me when the past commissioner said, you know, it's really not an easy project putting up a rec center, because if you put up a rec center, you have to maintain it, and that's what I kind of conveyed to the residents as well. So I know it has been some talk that the city, and correct me if I misspeak, that the city is going to try to put in a rec center. Is that something that's going to happen? Is that still in planning? Is that going to happen? Where is it going to happen? What type of information do we have on that we can take back to the residents?
You know, I in speaking to that, if I may, wasn't part of that deal with Cedar Point involving their
So, Mr. Chair.
producing a rec center for the local residents in Sandusky?
Yeah, so through you to Mr. Murphy, yeah, through those new dollars, through that $100 million deal that was reached with Cedar Point, one of the 6 areas is to actually develop develop a rec center. So, and those dollars will be allocated, over the course of a couple decades actually. So it's basically like a 20-year plan. So we will begin to very soon begin to sort of, get public feedback. So then we can sort of begin developing that plan to actually see not only about funding, the rec center, but also just developing a concept that works well, hopefully for everyone. So,
Like Mr. Murphy said, the maintenance of that
of course.
facility.
Right.
I mean, we're devoid of anything for the community since the Y left.
Right. And I guess, and I did hear that about that plan, that $100 million at Cedar Point was for the rec center. I guess the questions that I might ask, and some residents might ask, and I guess it might still be in the planning stage, because you said, is it going to be like 20 years from now that this might happen? Where will this be? Well, because a lot of residents say, like, we look at Sports Force, and I think Sports Force is a great facility. It's a plus for the city, but the location of it is out so far. So the question a lot of residents are asking, if Cedar Point does the rec center, and I guess the city will be in partnership with this rec center, do they have any idea where the rec center will go? Will it be out there at Sport Force area again, or is it going to be more centralized in the city of Sandusky? So those are some of the questions that the residents will be asking. So as a commissioner, as the DEI, as the police chief, as the fire chief, I know you all have input. I know we're not going to be here much longer, Chief. We got to get out of here.
Right.
I have another meeting. But those are some of the questions that I want to propose to all of you that the residents will be watching and waiting to ask. So are we waiting 20 years for this to happen? And then when it does happen, where will this facility be? So just some food for thought.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, certainly.
All right.
I can assure you, though, that it'll more than likely be centrally located and not on the outskirts of town, just to make
And
it.
from information that I've received, it's going to be sooner than later.
Yes, yes,
Okay, great. Thank
very
you.
much so.
And I have a little insider information from another Harris. And,
What? I mean, okay.
it's going to be sooner than later.
I hope that's not you, Mark. It's not giving
Oh,
insider,
man, I
insider
don't know.
training now. See what I know?
There's quite a few of us, so.
That's true. That's true.
I don't know which one.
As someone who works with the other Harris, no comment.
Yes, exactly.
I don't want to speak for the commissioner, but I think during the public part of the presentation, during the commissioners' meeting, they actually talked about forming focus groups about location, almost at the start of the year.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, thank
And,
you.
well, I hate to move along, but I do have a little bit of old business, and that is
Can we get to new business first, Brother Chair?
No, you do old business first.
Oh, I was just looking at the agenda. I'm sorry.
I had it.
Old business before new
Okay,
business.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And that has to do with kudos to the police department.
Okay.
I get around the city a lot, and we had talked about, when I said the smile of an officer, you know, just listening to people as our officers move about the city, it came from, there's the police, to, oh, hey, there's a policeman,
Good.
kind of thing. And I want you to know that whatever you're doing, it's working, so keep it up.
Well, thank you, but I couldn't do it without the men and women that serve our department, so they're very invested in this community, and
Well, tell them thank you for us.
I will.
Right, right.
Thank you.
And on that note, if I may, Brother Chair.
New business.
No, still old.
Oh, you got
Still,
old business?
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on what you're saying to the
Okay.
chief. I wanted to ask a question. Is there any issues that's been going around town? I know I haven't heard anything lately other than like the gunplay, and that's still an issue that we have in Sandusky, and I know you guys are doing all you can
Doing
in
the
your
best we
force.
can to control it. No issues that stand out to the point where, we need to have discussions, but obviously me and you communicate frequently, and if I need something, I'll give you a call, and I always
Okay.
appreciate your support.
Okay,
We
all
all
right.
do.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
we're just gonna keep doing the best job we can.
You're doing a fine
Doing a
job.
great job, yeah.
With that gun violence, I know other cities have seen a larger uptick than we have, but everything trickles down, and it seems to me, I know it's probably more, seems to me because it happened near me, but we have had an uptick in some gun shootings, even if it doesn't hit people in the area. And how do we address those? Like, I know it's really hard to police a shooting that doesn't hit anyone, and it's hard to find that person, car.
If there was a 100% answer and cure to this, we'd have done it many, many years ago. But I think we address it the same way we try to right now. We focus our attention on being out in the community, interpersonal relationships that we have, leaning on each other for support. Obviously, we need the community's assistance to solve what we get called.
Is there anything that we can do? I mean, would you have an appetite for like a gun buyback or something like that?
The support we get from the community, it's almost overwhelming. I mean, we couldn't ask for a better relationship than what we have right now. So, I mean, it's, on our end, it's us continuing to foster that.
Okay.
That's what's gonna help curtail some other things, education. Part of it, having talks, we did talks, to people in the room, set up a presentation this summer, so we'll continue to do that. Sometimes, unfortunately, younger people, get caught up in the heat of the moment, don't see the big picture. Things happen very fast.
This happens.
And we have to.
Escalates.
True.
We have to come in.
Okay, but is there anything we can do to not be reactive to that? Like I said, like a gun buyback, or even like, as far as policing it, how easy is it to do like a gun residue test, or do you need to have like a GSR?
Did you say GSR test?
Yeah. Are those expensive? Is that a pro?
No, and we have that capability, but that's a scientific avenue. Is it gonna be admissible in court? There's other explanations to have GSR on your person, so that's one of those, that's just an investigative tactic. Gun buybacks,
You get all the old guns.
Yeah, I don't think that really solves anything. I think they've tried that and it really doesn't work. On our end, we will continue to aggressively pursue people that have weapons that shouldn't. We will continue to pursue people that are a threat to our community. And we're gonna do the best we can. And if there's something that I see in the future or something, you know, it's like what Marcus said, we lean on each other's best practices. So we have a very, very good relationship with law enforcement around here and other professionals. I worked for the sheriff for many, many years. I know a lot of different people and we constantly communicate about, hey, just so you know, we're seeing this. Just so you know, this came up. Last week, we took a substantial amount of fentanyl and methamphetamine off of the streets of the community, and that was with Perkins Township Police, and that was with the Sheriff's Office. So those things we continue to do too, and if there was a crystal ball and solved it all, we would, but I gotta tell you, I couldn't be more impressed with the support we get from the community.
All right. If you need anything, let this commission know.
And personally, I'm impressed with the job our police are doing and the fire department. You know, you guys are phenomenal. I couldn't, you know, I see things all around and you know, our departments here are some of the best in the nation. You know, we have problems, that's true, everybody does, but we do more to reach out and try to solve those problems than we do to create a bigger anchor around our necks. And so, you know, again, kudos to both departments. You know, you guys are doing a phenomenal job in our city.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate that.
Well, if there's no more old business, is there any new business that someone would like to share?
Brother Chair? Oh, I'm sorry, Chief, go ahead.
You first.
Okay, I just like the handout I passed out to everyone that was here. I don't know, Abby, did I give you one? Beyond the Dream? I'm sorry. Thank you. But I would just like to go on the record, Brother Chair, to make this announcement for our CRC as well as for the city of the Sandusky. The NAACP is proud to partner with BGSU Firelands in bringing to our area Dr. Hassan Jeffries. Dr. Jeffries is an associate professor of history at the Ohio State University.
Buckeyes.
Yeah, go Buckeyes. We still love you. And he's going to be coming here for our Martin Luther King celebration. You notice the date, it will be taking place on January 13th, which is a Thursday. We know Martin Luther King's celebration is on that Monday, but Firelands is closed. The campus, main campus here at Firelands is closed on Monday in observance of MLK Day. So we move this program to the following Thursday. So we're excited about Dr. Jeffries coming in. He's a great speaker. You might know his brother, Akeem Jeffries, who is in the Federal House of Representatives. So Dr. Jeffries will bring in a message, I think, that will be great for our area. So we encourage everyone to be in attendance. It's at Firelands. It's going to be in the Cedar Point Auditorium at the campus. We do have some maps here available if anybody needs to know where that is on the campus. And if you want to just be at home and watch it in your own home, it's okay. Definitely just go to events at BGSU, education events, Dr. Jeffries, and therefore you can get the Zoom link to watch it via Zoom if you would prefer just to watch it, you know, at home, not want to be in that building. So we look forward. And Chief, if you could just, I can give you an extra copy if you could just post it down at the station. Mr. Harris, I give you some for the city as well. We could post them on the bulletin boards, you know, if that's okay. And we just look forward to everyone coming. So if there's any questions, if not, we'll see everyone on January 13th.
Amen.
If you can email that to me, too, sir, we'll put it up on social media.
Okay, we'll do. Okay, we'll do. Thank you, Chief.
And is there any other, Chief?
We are currently trying to compile a list of eligible candidates to be police officers with the city of Sandusky. So we recruit and we aim to, you know, be as diverse as our city. So everything we're doing, we did last time. On top of that, we're doing a little bit more this time.
You don't need any old people to chase old crooks, do you?
Hey, I'm that's what I'm saying.
Me and Mr. Murphy can chase old crooks for you.
I mean, we do what we can do.
Really want to find people from the community who want to serve our community. And if anybody knows anybody that's interested, please send them our way.
Yeah.
I will do. Will do. And it's a good job.
It is a
Great
good
job.
Good job.
Great job.
Good job, great work
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah, and I would just echo that to the fire chief as well. I know, Chief, I know you're in the process of, just getting that job full-time, so we'll see what the commissioners can do to make that happen, but we wanted the same thing as the fire. I know we had a lot of firemen before, and a lot of those African-American firemen are gone now, and we would love to have those, some replacements, but I know it's hard to find, I know you're trying, but we still have to, shake that tree, and hopefully.
Not
we
just
can,
minority males, but women.
Yeah.
Well, we
Yeah, what you
we
did.
just recently hired our
I
first
saw
female in
that.
30 years. And unfortunately, we didn't, on this previous test, we didn't have any African Americans apply. But I've sat down with Marcus and we discussed a strategy, how we can get out there and recruit. They're out there, just got to
Yeah.
find them.
Right,
Yeah, and
right.
that-
And anything we can do to help you, let us know.
And it's just not every 2 years, you have to recruit. You have to recruit every day.
Every day.
Every day.
And that's going to be one of our main goals.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Well, if there's nothing new other than that, then it's after 7 o'clock.
Okay.
And I'd like a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There none being opposed, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, folks. Appreciate it.
Hey, Mark.
Forgot one.
You got one? Anyone? Feel free to make copies. All right.
Get something to,
Disseminate.
This is really cool.
Yeah, it's Dr. Jeffrey. It's gonna be great.
yeah.